Hello and welcome back to another Pinnacle preview. Today we are looking at the final group of ESL Pro League. I'm joined by all these lovely faces once again. This is, as I say, the last group before we go into playoffs. So, the final 4 teams will be decided here. And something that's quite clear with this is it's quite CIS dominated. And the very first round, we have ForZe versus NAVI. And I just want to get your guys' takes on how do you think NPL is fitting into this roster? And I also want to ask about Electronic. Do you think he's wasted in this IGL role?
Who wants to start, boys?
Damn, yeah.
Early in the morning. This is what happens when we start early.
I can take it.
Yeah, go.
I think like NPL probably role-wise is fitting all right. And I think also like it seems like personality-wise he's also fitting all right. But I feel, I guess, the same about NPO as I feel about someone like Hetrick in NIP. It's that they are doing an okay job, but I don't really see them as like having a positive impact, I guess. Like, I think there are other players that you could have picked up who would right now be performing better. Like with Hetrick, there's many Orbers, like someone like Mentu, for example. I think you could easily go into NIP and have a much bigger impact. The same with NPO. There's like a lot of actually good CIS talent you could have picked up, but I think they're trying to, show that the academy project is working. And I think also it's not that he's bad, like he's handling the pressure pretty well, but I made a video about him before his first event with NAVI. My conclusion was that even though he's like quite decent, he's still rough around the edges and there's still a lot for him to learn. So it's not necessarily a massive gamble because I think he will get there, but it's just you are throwing away a few months because you have to let his talent progress to a point where he can actually hold his own properly in like tier 1. And a team like ForZe, I think, are really good at upsetting the big teams. Like Jerry is a really good caller, and this no fear CIS, fast, aggressive, reactionary style can be really hard to handle for a young guy. So I think I don't want to say that I think ForZe are going to win the match, but I actually think it's a real possibility, and I would be a little bit scared for this opening matchup if I was Navi.
Damn. Yeah, maybe. I agree with what you said about NPL though, because that's what I said in the other episode, right? For a team like Navi, they could have picked someone else, I guess, because it's gonna take time with new talents,
Yeah.
and it doesn't always work out. And yeah, it's the same as I said about Hetrick. Perhaps not the right fit, and it's not really what they need, right? They just need someone to fit that role because they have such good players, such good team. And yeah, I don't know if he's the right person for that, even though he's young and all that. But that could be the issue here because he has no experience. He has to learn everything, right? And I checked his statistics, even though it doesn't matter. I don't know. We'll have to see. Perhaps this is the event where he performs
Pops
really
off.
well. Yeah, pops off.
I mean, for me, like the way that I look at Navi, right? They're obviously one of the contenders, and they have like young players like Bit too. But like for me, just like it just doesn't make sense to put Electronic into the IGL role. Like I don't know if he likes it or if he likes working with Blade with it, but the guy is just too good to be put into an in-game leader role, in my opinion. So like it makes no sense. Like so first off, you got NPL. He's got like a lack of experience. You've even got Simple saying on stage that people shitting their pants on stage and stuff. I'm assuming that was directed at him. But like, it's like, it's like there's just like they just need some direction, right? It just seems like they've fallen now into this like I don't know. They look like they've lost their identity in a way that they don't play as confident as what they used to now also. And I think that's got to do with like their roster constantly changing. It's like all wishy-washy and stuff. And like, yeah, I don't know. It's like for me, they just need an IGL, put Electronic back to where he was doing before, and I think they'll fix stuff up, right? But and also with ForZe, like I think Jerry does a great job developing young talent. He obviously sees the game very well. So they're definitely like whenever he's in the picture, there's obviously they're never a team to underestimate, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation for Navi for sure right now.
Yeah. It's also kind of strange because I feel like it's the first time that there's been an extended period where I feel like Simple has not been like as crazy good as he normally is for actually like a few events now, which I don't know what to feel about that because part of me wonders whether that just comes down to the overall sort of like structure of the team and how everything is, or I don't really know what it is, but like Simple has not been that good recently. And so that coupled with all these sort of other issues you have around the team, yeah, it's just kind of frustrating right now watching Navi. Like I never feel like they're going to come in and just really surprise me and like win a tournament, which is what they need to be doing. So I don't know. Yeah, there's like quite a few issues going on at the same time. And also, MPL is playing some pretty important positions. I think he's playing like around connector on Mirage, for example. Like he's really come in and been given some difficult positions to play, I think. So yeah, maybe it will take some time, but I don't know. Everything I look at around Navi doesn't really fill me with confidence. And I don't know if I see enough progress for them to become like a competitor again, sadly. I feel like they're at this level where they're like obviously a good team, they'll make playoffs, but I don't know if I see that peak where they can, make that next step right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like they don't really need time, right? They just need the last guy to fit the team. That's all they need. They don't need time. They're already that good. They just need an in-game leader perhaps, and Electronic could go back to what he used to do, go through a smoke, kill two, all that shit that he did before. Yeah, he was insane. He's not been the same since he became an in-game leader, unfortunately.
His performance dropped off a lot, didn't it, at the end of the year in those blast events. So he was the main talking point, I think, for the Navi
sure.
team at blast. So it's I think maybe it could have been, MPL maybe shouldn't have come into the team and someone could have come into lead. But do you think Simple can come into this event and match what ZywOo's done? Because I mean, he's not finished playing his games in Group C yet, and I think in the first game he had a 1.9 rating. I think it was I can't remember who it was
He's
against,
beast mode, bro.
but it was
Yeah.
yeah.
We can never rule out Simple, right? He's always there. He's always good, even though his last events has been not simple good, but still very good. Yeah.
I think also with the Simple thing, you can always make the argument that if you don't win as much, you will have worse stats. That's just a matter of fact. You won't be able to put up 1.3 rating consistently, which he has been doing, which sounds crazy, but he has. You can put up that kind of rating if you're not winning, and that's also part of the reason why. I mean, someone like ZywOo, even though he's getting great stats, he is doing it a lot while his team is underperforming. For Simple, I feel like his performance is a little more tied to team performance. Like I think Simple is the type of guy where if he notices that they're not winning rounds by the proper tactics or whatever, he will just throw himself in there. Where I feel like ZywOo, he's a little bit more laid back and following the plan. Like he will follow the plan to death, to the point where maybe he has the skill to actually change a match by doing like a super aggressive move where he just tells his in-game leader to shut up and rush up banana, but he's not gonna do that. Whereas Simple, he's the type of guy where that's something that's always impressed me, even at majors, in the biggest tournaments, the biggest matches and stuff. If something is not going right, he will typically have bad stats, because then he's gonna just throw himself in and try to get like entries all the time. Where someone like ZywOo, he will probably more follow the plan from beginning to end. And like that's why I think, I mean, I see Simple making, I've been watching some Simple demos lately to learn, and I see him making some very uncharacteristic mistakes. So that is obviously part of his performance, but I think a big part of it is that he probably sees that MPO is not, putting up the numbers and doing the work that is necessary for the team to win. And so Simple is trying to do extra, but I think what he was really good at when he was at the number one spot was the fact that if he got smoked off, he was actually smart enough to leave it. And this is something that, he has been famous for like pushing through smokes and stuff like this. But actually, if you look at the time when he was number one, if he would get smoked off on an angle, he would just walk away and try to approach it from a different way, you know, like come around the side, see if there's another avenue, something like this. So I think if the team starts performing better, Simple's performance will pick up as well. But one question I want to ask like the panel here is, why are NAVI not picking up Jerry?
Good question, mate.
Yeah, I was thinking the same actually when we were talking about it before, like Jerry maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's not even old, right? He's like 23, 24, something like this, even though he's been here forever. Let me check. 24,
Yeah, 24. Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
young, bro. 24.
It's interesting with Jerry. I feel like whenever I watch ForZe play, they kind of, I don't want to call it like gimmicky. I don't think that's the right word for it, but they play like quite a weird style sometimes where like I feel like they just go for like a lot of like weird CT aggression and stuff, which to be fair is kind of in meta now. But I always wondered how that would work on a top team. I feel like it works really well in like an underdog team, the way he calls. But I would be interested to see it. I'm just like, I'm not sure if like it would allow maybe some of the players like Simple to really like shine. But obviously he could also just adapt to being on a team like Navi and having more talent to work with. So it would definitely be interesting for sure. I mean, there's a couple. I mean, you could also have like Chopper or someone who, funnily enough, is also in this group. Like there should be options for sure, right? And I think I want to see Electronic really was always the right-hand man, right? And I think that's kind of what everyone wants to see on this team.
100%. I mean, just like if they picked up Jerry, like you said, he would have a lot more talent to work with, right? For sure. Like you've got those crazy players in Navi. But like the thing is also like for them right now, also like it was funny you were talking about the positions before, Alex, like putting MPL in like connector and stuff. And I remember there was an interview with like Simple, and he was like, someone was asking why he's playing those positions, and he was like, I don't know why the fuck he's playing there. Ask Blade.
Yeah.
Didn't he
Yeah.
say something like that?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did. He did.
Obviously, like they're not on the same page whatsoever, and that's probably the biggest thing, right? So bringing someone like Jerry, who like can actually bring structure, or not just structure, but like probably bring everyone onto the same page and playing good Counter-Strike again, like it could definitely work wonders for them, right?
You think that's
Yeah.
something that could change this team into being another, being a contender again? Because if you look at their players, they all excel in the roles they play. It's actually ridiculous how like good their stats are in the roles that they play, like, Bit and Perfecto in their respective roles. So do you think that if you just put Jerry into the team, because the experience and how good they are at their roles, that'd be an easier fit to, like, I don't know how Hooksy came into G2 and had to kind of work with that system into his own?
Maybe. It's hard to say, like perhaps the system doesn't work, right? It's a gamble, but you could try Jerry and Chopper and see if one of them, if the style fits the team and all that. You don't know.
I think also with the like CIS teams, especially Jerry's teams, I feel like even though he doesn't have the best talent to work with, I feel like his style of calling is typically a style of calling where you expect all 5 players to have their own brain. Like that's, in my opinion, very CIS, in that you call like loose defaults, and then like people are open and willing to make whatever plays they see ahead of them. So like if they see a smoke, they think they have a timing, they go through it. If they whatever, like it's very loose and like timing based. And I think that's something where, especially Jerry, if he would come in and get the reins, like the keys to the castle in Navi, exactly having those like 4 people who are so damn good in their roles, having like this system with like 5 brains and a little bit of structure to back it up, if you allow someone like Simple to play freely, and Electronic and Perfecto and Bit, I just don't really see how it can go wrong, honestly, because I felt like that was also what Boomich was really good at, was on Nuke, for example, which they made their home map. I assume it was Blade that invented a system of like basically having 3 lobby guys, and then having 1 guy working under heaven and 1 guy working secret, and it was like a default every single round. each player had like their own role, but there was like a lot of mid-round decisions having to be made. And I think if someone like Jerry would come in and fill that fifth slot and be able to think for himself, but also with a little bit of structure and making some plans, like I think, you know, simple electronic perfecto and bit are going to be able to win you a lot of rounds without calls. But I think with electronic thinking about the overall, like the macro game, he's not able to do the things that he used to. And one of the things I loved about him was that on Inferno, for example, he would take mid alone, and then after the utility faded, he would just stay there. So that if there comes in a repush, he would always get like 1 or 2 kills, and you'd think like this should not even be possible. But he was allowed and I guess able to like push the limits of what was actually possible for a single player. Like the amount of impact he had besides kills was incredible. But you can't take those risks as an IGO, I think. And I think if you would get someone like Jerry in, yeah, I think Jerry could be the boomage that NAVI need.
Yeah,
guess-
like, yeah, you go ahead.
Go ahead. I was
Okay.
just going to say quickly, like, the thing I find with Na'Vi, though, is I wonder if it seems like Blade is just like so much of this team. It seems like he's like literally saying, you know what, let's have Electronic be the IGL. And it seems like a lot of the ideas come from him. So I actually wonder how it would work if you brought an IGL like Jerry in. Like, how much would he get to sort of contribute would be my question, I guess.
Yeah, the thing about as Nato said with Boomish is that he never had any good stats really. He was just calling and playing for the team basically. So they don't really need a fragger, but they need Electronic to be activated. And yeah, so that probably if they get an game leader who takes all of the responsibility, Electronic can do whatever he wants to do again. Yeah, I think that's the key, basically.
Do you think that loose style that you were talking about makes it like easier to spot the mistakes you see on a team like Na'Vi compared to someone like Heroic? Because if someone is going to take that, you know, that opportunity to push through a smoke and then that doesn't work out, are we then looking at that as, oh, this team isn't good together? Or like, is it just because the style they play that they play this loose style?
I think Na'Vi always had really solid decision making on their players, and I never had the feeling that they are like a team just walking through smokes all the time or something like this. But they were just playing defaults, and every player was like making smart decisions for himself. And I think honestly, also thinking a little bit more about it, that could be what Na'Vi is missing, is that when they had Boomage, they had, you know, an IGL playing very aggressive, which is also very in meta, like Kerrigan, Hooksy, you know, these kind of guys who throw themselves in and a lot of time die. But with some Young, for example, you maybe lost the aggression of Electronic a little bit because he has to think about more things. But then also you get some Young, who I don't think is a particularly aggressive player. Now you get NPO, who's like a young guy without experience. How are you expecting to have him as like a playmaker, right? Like that would be foolish. But that's why I think someone like Jerry, he is that, you know, aggressive, doesn't care about stats in-game leader. He has decent stats, honestly, but like he would be willing to run and then just die or like take a timing and make an aggressive move. And I think like they need the 2 playmakers. Like that's what I see in every top team, basically. You need at least 2 people who are able to like play make. Otherwise your default gets too stale. And I think that's what is happening, and probably also why Simple is failing to hit the levels we've seen him before, because he's having to take this role as an aggressive playmaker more, and it doesn't maybe suit the AWP role as well as a rifle role.
Yeah, definitely. Like the thing about Electronic is that when he made a super aggressive play, let's say they smoke yard, right? Then he goes through the smoke in like 3 different directions. You never know, right? That's his place. He's smart. He makes the correct moves. He doesn't just run through it, right? But he can't really do that now, because if he dies early, what are they gonna do, right?
Exactly.
That's basically how it is in many teams, at least. Perhaps Simple takes over or whatever they have. I mean, everyone in that team could call, I guess. That's why they are so good. But you never want in-game leaders to die early without a plan.
No, I agree.
Another team in this group that is a CIS team is Spirit, and they're slowly making their ways up the rankings. They've just overtaken Cloud9. But I want to ask, do you still see them as just an upset team, or are they a genuine contender for this event?
It's the same as always, right? Spirit has always been there. They've qualified for events, and then they've been lacking a bit on LAN maybe. But they've always been good. But yeah, with this wonderful guy, right? Perhaps he was the last. What do you call it?
Piece.
Yeah,
The
the last
missing
piece,
puzzle piece, yeah.
the missing piece. Yeah, no, I don't know, but they've always been good, right? But they've never really. They've always been there, but then they fade away, and then they come back, and they fade away and come back. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But they're playing Astralis, so I think they can win actually that game.
Is it weird
Yeah,
to
for
look at Astralis now and like, I mean, just seeing that name, are we past the point now where we remember what they were? Are we in a realistic mind frame about what Astralis is in 2023?
Maybe they have device, they have good players, but this bus guy, I don't know.
It's like you were saying earlier, Nato, you don't get people that lose and have like 1.3 ratings, but BlameF is that guy, isn't he?
Yeah. The exception to the rule, perhaps.
Yeah. Do you think that now Device has come into the team, he's been able to relax a bit, or do you still think that he needs to put up all of those insane numbers to make sure that Charlotte can get the win?
Am I the one grabbing this?
Yeah.
Saying, okay, I feel like I'm talking constantly. Like, I want you guys to also have the floor, but yeah, I'll happily take it. It's a Danish team anyway. Like, what I've been seeing from Astralis so far is that, you know, BlameF and Device are like this dynamic duo, and they both need to put up like really top tier levels of performance to be competitive. For your opening question, have we forgotten what they used to be? Absolutely, in my opinion. Like, well, we haven't forgotten what they used to be. Those player names, they are still, you know, etched into the, I guess, history as being the greatest Counter-Strike team of all time. And when you hear a name like Dupree or Zipex or whatever, it should give you the feeling like this guy's a legend, you know. But for the Astralis organization, I think with a lot of their questionable moves, like hiring people who are banned, for example, is something that I know the public is looking very down
Say
upon.
the name, bro. Just say the name.
No, but it's multiple people, right? From what I know, there's like Hunden. Even though I think it's a great pickup, I know this is something that, you know, gives a very negative public image. And I think there was also like they were working with Kessler at some point, who also got banned for the coach bug. And then also people mentioned, which I think is stupid, but that they used to work with Sonic, who cheated in 1.6. I think that's completely irrelevant, but like
bullshit, surely.
Yeah, right. But anyway, like in terms of the public image right now, they are at the lowest point I think ever. And so
100%.
the legendary brand of the organization is gone. But when I hear a name like Device and when I see him play, like this guy is still in there, you know. And I think the pickup of BlameF, you can argue if it's been positive or negative, but I actually think now he's gone through some role changes and I see him play more aggressive as well. I've talked to him obviously also, and I know that, you know, he's doing a little bit more. And I actually, when I watch their voice com videos, I see him sometimes when they're a man down something, just say like, no, don't smoke for me. I'm gonna just go kill this guy, you know, stuff like this. And I feel like he's evolving, you know, as a player and as a human being. I don't think this Astralis lineup is sick. I actually think this boss guy has a ton of talent because he has the cleanest aim, like Spinks, Fasher, those kind of guys. So if he builds up some like consistency and learns about the game, I think this guy actually could really become a solid player. I heard that he started playing 2.5 years ago or something like this. And if that's really true, you actually have a player with a ton of potential, you know, like it's crazy. This kind of mechanical skill you cannot teach. So I don't see Astralis as a super scary team. And if I'm Spirit going into this match, I'm definitely having the feeling of a favorite. But yeah, like I think they do still have potential with this new team. It's just about making everything, you know, work out the way that they want.
Makes you wonder what else this man has done for the last 2.5 years, if that's true.
Yeah, what the hell? No,
Like,
actually, I did.
podcast.
I only watched. I did only watch his first game, and now I can see that he did deliver. But I don't know what this CCT tournament is though. But in this Blast TV thing, he did deliver though. But like the thing about Blame, it's quite funny because I hate his playstyle. Right? It's I hate it, but they need him. He's really good. So yeah, I think he's yeah.
Sorry,
Go
well,
ahead.
that's the thing though, right? Like, fuck, CT side, he's a fucking animal, right? Like, he's taking those entries, jewels, and whatever, and putting up the numbers. But like, on T side, obviously in the past, he's been a bit of a beta, you know, like, and to hear Nato like say that he's evolving, he's been speaking to him, actually makes me pretty happy because I think he can have so much more impact on the game, like fucking so much, because the guy's got so much talent. But he just hasn't been using it right, in my opinion. Like, he doesn't take those jewels on T side. He's always been a little bit passive. He almost reminds me of Justin back in the day, a little bit, where there's so much talent, but it's not being fully utilized. So to hear that is actually, it makes me happy, to be honest, because the guy's a fucking beast. But to talk about like also like hearing the Astralis name, it's always going to be a legendary name now. But like, you think of it and you just don't know like where they're going to place, right? You don't know if they're going to be like top 16 nowadays. Like, it's crazy to think that, right? Like, I mean, Astralis for me, they were a huge inspiration for me back in the day when I first started in-game leading. And so like, I have full respect to the guys, but it's like, they're past their prime. You sort of think that, and yeah, I don't know. It's a weird situation now for sure. Like, but obviously with Device coming back into the team, obviously he adds a lot of firepower, a lot of communication, stuff like that. And I hope they can do good, but I in my opinion, I think Spirit will beat them, to be honest.
Yeah, it kind of feels like Astralis is missing an aggressive player, right? I don't know about Buzz. Perhaps he's really aggressive, but it feels like when they had the pre and they had Magisk and all that, it was completely different than these passive players. They have Blame, they have Device. He's quite passive, I'd say.
Yeah.
Sip, Glaive can be crazy, right? But it's mostly on T side. It feels like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. It's a defensive lineup pretty much.
For sure.
It's also just so crazy that the Astralis literally just won at Katowice in any way. They weren't even at the play-in, man. Like, what's going on? Like, I'm looking at some of the teams in the play-in. Astralis aren't even there. So I'm like, they're playing all these CCT tournaments now, which is just like, it's so crazy to think about that. Like, this org is so massive. So like, there's pressure on them this tournament. I think they've really got to make it through this group, honestly. And
those NA Cash Cups, they came in half for the
I know, right?
Yeah,
It's
did
true,
they win
actually.
one during Katowice?
Yeah, man.
And because I remember seeing it on Twitter and I was like, what event have you guys been playing?
Yeah.
Literally. No, yeah. But I've always been someone who I've thought that, you know, the thing that frustrates me more about Blame F, I was always fine with his play style. I think it's just I don't think the team was like well set up enough to actually allow him to be the sort of closer in rounds, because I think he's really good as a trade fragger. I think just the overall team was just, it's just frustrating when you see a guy that is talented, but his team isn't good enough. So then you always see him in these unwinnable positions, right? But I feel like if the team was better, he'd be in, you know, late round scenarios where he could have impact. And I also feel like for this team, I don't know, man. I guess the idea of having like Blame F and ZipX maybe that's the sort of role clash that doesn't make sense in my head, because I was always harsher on Blame F when he was like in-game leading for his teams. I thought there was more of an argument there, but I almost put him as like someone like a Rops when he was on his teams. And yeah, he's obviously talented, but his natural instinct is to play that more passive play style. And I think he's very good at it. But when the team doesn't have enough talent or isn't set up enough, he's just not going to be able to have the same sort of impact you want. Like, I think his play style's fine personally. I just don't think the team is set up well enough for him.
You think they need to look towards the old dogs of the team? Is that something that they should consider changing, or is that just not in question at all at this point.
I think Sip's time is gonna be up at some point. I think we're getting there. Like we practiced against them like I guess 1 or 2 months ago, and I was super impressed. Like we were playing Nuke, and on ramp, every time we were even just having a small thought about going ramp, we would get like, it felt like 3 HEs in our head from Sip, the guy obviously still has a really good read of the game, but I feel like he's lost like his like cold-blooded killer aspect, and some players lose that with age, where he's trying to almost play too smart in a way, and it can be a good thing, but I think in his case it's like sometimes it just feels like his aim is letting him down, let's call it like that. And I think it's because he has not a big enough focus on it. But in Glaive's case, like actually with what Dennis, I think it was you that mentioned it, with them having too many passive pieces, I see Glaive also catching a lot of flack for obviously not being like the GOAT IGL because he can't make this team work and stuff like this. But like thinking about it, right, Sip is passive player. And I think this Buzz guy, like his strength for me lies in being an anchor. So he's a passive player as well. And Blimif is traditionally passive and
like
Device
4
as well.
passive players.
Yeah, how are you gonna win a
Yeah.
T-side round? Like
Yeah.
Aaron, Dennis, you can tell me as IGLs, right? But it can, on CT side, it can work, because someone like Blimif, he is actually naturally aggressive on Connector Mirage, for example, as CT. Like he can play really aggressive. But on T side, if no one's willing to create that space except Glaive, a team is not going to work out. It's kind of the same as what we mentioned about Navi. Like you need multiple playmakers, and this team has none. So I think that's like the big issue. And honestly, I think something that could solve the team to some extent is that if we are looking to remove Zipex at some point, I would switch him and Buzz and let BlameF obviously keep his roles, but Buzz being an anchor, I think could work really well if you teach him to, be as smart as Zipex or like work towards it, and then you find a guy like a Config, for example, like some guy who is actually a playmaker, right? Then you all of a sudden have that balance. And actually, I think also with Astralis, ever since Device came in, he's been looking solid. BlameF has been looking solid. But if they actually had Config, I think this team would work really well. Like all the roles.
Mate, you know who else
Yeah.
actually? A big tragedy is Bubsky on this. Like Bubsky back in the day was so sick as that sort of player. Like the fact that he's never found a spot on Astralis kills me, man. Bubsky was so good.
True. I mean, I think still like him and Config were kind of different roles, right? Like Bubsky would take like the role of Zipex, I guess, like a aggressive lurk he would play. But still, like having him in the team would also be an advantage, and then trying to form Buzz into a new kind of like Config, But I think what you mentioned, Alex, completely agree. But yeah, I also think like a big tragedy is actually everything that happened with Config. It makes me really sad that they, he fucked himself up, I guess, but also that Astralis, I guess, refused to take him back. Like just too much controversy about his person, but he would have been a really good fit in this Astralis team.
Yeah. Feels like
it's hard to think about. Yeah. Oh, you go, bro. You go.
No, you go.
I was just going to talk about their T side, like the way that we're talking about it now. Like it's like there's no one wanting to take the space on the map but Glaive, but also he's the IGL, so he can't take it all the time. And as an in-game leader, that's so frustrating when people aren't willing to take the space on the map that they need to, right? So yeah, fucking hell. Like it literally went from what they used to have, like they had to Glaive and Magis willing to just go in and fucking do the hard yards, right? And now they've got like, because I'm just gonna eliminate Glaive from this situation. Like it's like they have no one. It's just way too passive. And
yeah, I agree.
As an IGL, I could picture this Glaive just like wanting to pull his hair out, maybe. Like I got no idea, but that's just what I could picture, because if I was put in that situation, I would be very frustrated for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, the way we talk about it now, yeah, I don't like how the T side could be activated from them. So yeah.
Seems like they have no one to press W when it's necessary. If someone like if I have a good spawn somewhere and I get a feeling, I want to do this play, then I'm gonna say it. But it feels like they don't really have anyone that does that at all. Glaive, that's it. About the config situation, I think the decision was so weird from all the information we received so far, I'd say. Like, I don't know if we can talk about this here, but on what he said on the papers, he was the victim and he still gets removed from Astralis. That's so fucking weird, because he's really good and he would fit the team. And with him on the team, they would get that space and also an insane aimer. So they fucked themselves a bit there.
It's very odd with that situation.
I mean, I think that's what makes like back in the day, like what makes Magis such an important player for Astralis past, right? Because he could be that anchor on CT side, like one of the best anchors in the world. And then come T side, he can be putting that like aggressive second person in behind Dupree or something like that, right? So it's just weird roles over there right now, for sure. Like,
yeah, like when I played with them, you know, I was standing a long time ago, some blast event. When I came to the team, and all I had to do was basically to follow Kirby, right? So he just said, we play together, basically. Because the system they had was so easy, because I replaced the Vice, right, I think, and Dupree took over the op. And he was insane with the op. But still, so I took over Dupree's role and I played with Kirby, and it was super easy because of the system they had, and it feels like they don't have that anymore. We just played together, created space, all that. Yeah, and it's basically gone right now. So it's interesting.
yeah.
They're almost a victim of their own actions with having kind of funneled through a lot of this talent. And now it seems that every time they look to pick up a new player, it is this like an academy player. They are looking for the next thing. And do you think that's as an effect of picking up so much talent when they were going through the whole 10-man roster situation, and now they've just kind of lost out on the opportunity to, you know, either go back to some of those players or kind of lost their reputation through that?
Yeah, they even lost the chance to get some of the heroic players, right? Because there was a time period where you maybe could have got some of those guys. You could have got someone like Shush maybe, but you know that they left it maybe a little too long, and now the heroic guys, obviously, you know, they're chilling, man. They're loving life. So yeah, it's kind of weird how Astralis have, considering the position they were in, they had like every opportunity, right, to get players in, you know, and someone like a Shush instead of like a Zipex. I mean, maybe it wouldn't work now with the way the team is, but like back when they had the opportunity, that would have been crazy. Or even like, I don't know, you look at like TassS, I guess, like, you know, if they could have got him at the right time, damn, he'd be great on this team right now.
Even some of the Copenhagen Flames guys.
Yeah, as well. But isn't that funny as well? How actually the only real rumor we have is that they wanted to pick up Shush, which is like the worst player they could pick from Heroic. Like I think it was contract-wise that his contract was running out. He has to resign stuff like this. But still, it's like pretty funny that right now they have 4 passive players, and like the only rumor we've had is them picking up a passive player. It's so stupid.
Yeah.
I think also like Device came out on HLTV Confirmed, right, and said that after his departure from Astralis, he told Glaive and Astralis to pick up Nikodos, I believe.
Yeah,
and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
It's like that would also be an AWP who would be able to balance it a little bit better, I guess, because he is like he doesn't care at all. He just plays on aim. Feels like
he's
so,
got that confidence that like Lucky and Farley just didn't seem to
exactly
have.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, it's another team that we look at here that I mean was their biggest rival arguably during their era is Liquid. And just on the topic of AWPers, because I feel like that has been the talking point about this team. Whenever I see stuff about Liquid, I seem to see a lot of critique around oSee. So I'm going to put everyone on the spot here. And I just want to ask, is he the player, like, does he have the quality they need to be able to achieve titles?
It's a tough one, but I remember, didn't he say something like that he wants to be as feared as simple, right? when people play him, this was a long time ago. I don't remember. I don't know if it was him, but I think it was
I
him.
think you're
Like
right, maybe.
99% sure.
Like
Yeah, I think he said something like, when people play me, I want them to fear me, something like that. You know, that like they're playing a good opera here. And I think perhaps I don't know. He does crazy flicks, but he doesn't hit them.
Bro.
Yeah, pretty much. But he's still a good player, right? He's not bad. But I'm not sure. Liquid is a solid team, and they need a solid upper, like a top tier upper, and that's gonna change a lot for them. Like they're gonna be stable as fuck.
Yeah, I think that's like the missing piece right now, right? Because it almost feels like he's got the talent, but it almost feels like he doesn't have that consistent confidence all the time. Because you can see that some games he can pop off, he can play, like he can hit the shots, but it's not consistent, right? And at the stage that Liquid are in, and like when you think of Liquid, you think of like a team that's gonna go for the trophies, right? And like as much as I like oSee as a player, I just don't think right now he's gonna get them there. You know, I think the other, like everyone else in the team are absolute guns. You got like Naf, Lige, like you got the trio of like and Nitro also, like, and now obviously Yakinda's there, and he's obviously taken them up a notch. But to get to that extra level, I think they do need like a killer AWPer for sure. They need someone that can just be consistent and fucking hit the shots all the time. And even Lige said in himself, like after one of the games, I think that oSee just needs to believe in himself, because it's a confidence issue for him. He just needs to play confident. He can be there, but it's not consistent for them.
Could that be why we've seen a drop in Elige's performance as well? Because that's been a big thing for him that I've noticed is consistency. The only one who seems to be on a like regularly at the top is NAF. He has been ridiculously consistent lately. But do you think because you're worrying about the AWPer believing in himself that that's gonna then put doubt into how a Lige plays?
Yeah. I don't know Elish too well, like personally, but feels like he's kind of emotional, right? Sometimes when you watch him. But also, I think he's like one of the best riflers in the world. I love watching him play. He's insane. But if it's as you say, if you know your mate is not confident while playing and he's an AWPer, yeah, that's gonna affect someone like Elish, who's very aggressive as well. Yeah, it could affect him, but yeah, I don't know. It does, I guess.
I also don't know a whole lot about Elige. I know there's a picture of him smiling that gets shared 1,000 times per day. But I think also just, I mean, if I should be, I guess, like devil's advocate a little bit, or at least like take the opposite side of the coin, also being an AWPer, like I think a little bit the situation is the same as what I had when I played in Heroic. You take a step up in your career, and if you don't have immediate like success, it can actually be really hard to change the form you have. Like I think maybe last time we talked about this like hierarchy in teams, and like the hierarchy rarely shifts. So like Neff and Elige, they're always going to be towards the top, but the same with Yekindar. And a team only has so many frags to get, that's like the problem always. So for someone like Simple to have a 1.3 rating, and for Electronic to always also be a top 4 player, they have to be winning. It has to be a good year for them, otherwise it's not possible. For Liquid right now, they are not really winning, but like when you have a player with 1.10 and then one with 1.06 and one with 1.04, it is hard as an AWP to also have like a super high, the same way that the reason ZywOo has such a high rating is because all of his other teammates don't have it. Like typically they're floating around 1 or even a little bit lower. And I'm not saying that ZywOo is having good ratings because his teammates are having bad ratings. It's not as like black and white as that, but it is the case that on Liquid, they right now have like 3-star riflers. How long has Nav been good? How long has Elige been good? And Yekindar is statistically a guy who is really, really strong, So how much space is there for the AWP to do more than just take the kills that come to him, Like this team has 2 playmakers, and oSee really needs to just be like the glue and maybe the guy who wins the clutches. That's it. So I honestly think he is like doing a pretty decent job. I think with his time in Extra Salt, he was floating around the like 1.3 rating past 3 months, and he was showing that he has like the ability to carry a team. But sometimes what a team needs for someone like oSee to shine through is that they need to make a change. I don't think there is really any change you could realistically make, but I think if one of those 3 rifles were to leave, I think we would see oSee picking up his skill, and then the new guy would be like the guy at the bottom, so to say. So I'm not saying oSee is perfect, and probably there are better AWP players they could get, but if oSee's form would start to go up and he would be around 1.10, we would have this conversation about one of the other 3, because not everyone can be at 1.10. It doesn't have to be like a player problem. It can be the team has such good players that it's hard for them to shine through. So yeah.
Yeah, like when I watch an op player on HLT with the statistics, I only look at the impact rating pretty much, because I think an opper should have high impact, then they do the job basically. And in extra salt, as you said, basically 1.3. In liquid, much less, like around 1. Now not as much in 2023, but it's only been 3 months. So I think what you say is actually accurate, maybe, because they have Yikinda very aggressive, Leash aggressive. Nav is not as aggressive, but he can be. And it's quite hard to come in and just take space. But I think that as oSee, if there's a confidence issue, which it seems like, it's even harder to take space. He's not going to do it from a Leash. He's not going to do it from Yikinda. He's just going to come in and be there passive. But what they do need is device. Imagine device on this team.
That
Holy
would be
shit.
good,
Yeah,
that would be good.
Do you not think that they actually quite value having a player like oSee for their system? Because, like you say, you've got a Liege and Yikinda. They're 2 openers, two aggressive players in that sense. So do you think a player like oSee, someone also like Hades we saw back on ENCE, a very passive AWPer, do you think that would benefit their system? Do you think maybe they become the opposite of Astralis, too aggressive, if they have an AWPer that, I'm not saying that oSee doesn't want to be the star, but someone who comes in and is like properly edging to be that star?
yeah. I think it definitely like can work, but there, as an AWP player, there is a certain amount of responsibility almost you have to take. Like there has to be a minimum amount of occasionally going for, calling for plays, going for picks. And I feel like Nato was saying, I think the perfect way to put it is when you have players, especially like Yikinda, they're probably a lot of the time going to be the sort of ones top of the pecking order, kind of calling for plays, especially. And it definitely makes it difficult for oSee to come through and try and say if he wants to pick a spot, or if he feels like he can get a pick in a round. But he has to do it a certain amount, even just to keep your opponents honest and just like to keep them guessing almost. Like you have to put at least some influence on the map. And I feel like he's just a little too far on that passive side. And maybe it's something Liquid need to work with him for. Like maybe they need to say, you know what, we need you to do a little more, because it might just be the way the team has naturally kind of fallen into the way that they play. They've just kind of maybe not realized that they're not getting the impact out of him that maybe they could be.
They face Rare Atom in the first round, and we've spoken about Asian teams across each of the podcasts, so I'm not going to touch too much into it, but we know they have some solid individuals, the like of Kazi and Mercury. But another team that is probably on their level is ATK. So I'm going to pass this one over to Nato, as he recently cracked against them.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious thing with ATK is that, they are like Pitbull's biggest fans. They are Mr. Worldwide of Counter-Strike, because they literally have a player basically from every region in the world. What I see though is that like now they've picked up Kakanito, and he is like a guy who's been really solid for Blue Jays for a long time. A pretty aggressive player with a lot of impact and stuff like this, but the real problem that I saw in the practice that I played, and also what I would guess kind of expected, is that We played them on Raj, for example, and this team was just like all in fights all the time. So like if they come to your bomb site, they are not going to use nades, they're just going to try to shoot, And those kind of teams, it's like kind of traditional, I would say lower tier NA CS. It can work if you like hit all your shots, but it's just not very deep. And I think for someone like Kakanito, I'm hoping he gets paid well, because I don't understand the change, honestly. Like I know he had interest from several good teams here in Europe, and for him to switch, I believe they used to live in Mexico. I'm not sure. I think maybe they are planning on moving to America, I think. But like, it's such a big change, and if he's not being paid well, I just don't get it, honestly, because it's again the like hierarchy, but like Swisher is kind of the top dog in his team, I guess. And I don't think Kakanito will come in and be like the main star. And that's where, if you have a team like ATK that don't have like a deep playbook, tactically they don't seem super solid. If you're just relying on aim, with the names that they have, they're going to struggle in a lot of the international tournaments, honestly. And yeah, I think just it's a weird a weird batch of players, honestly. Like, take someone like Bodenmaster, for example. Just, he's a Swedish guy, and no offense to him, but he never really achieved anything in the Swedish scene. I think you can agree on this, Dennis. Then he moves to
100%.
ATK, and he's like, he was actually pretty good at the beginning from what I saw, but like, I think he's like kind of average now. And yeah, I don't know. It's like that the type of team you want to build, like a team where you import players from every region, but you take only the average ones who didn't really win anything. Like, that
Sounds
seems
like it's a team of misfits or something like that.
yeah, but like, yeah, and that's why it's also so weird for me that Kakanito would join this team. But I guess there's like some, opportunities like playing Pro League that you don't want to miss out on. I get that, but
I think he's at least when it was announced, I think they just said that he's standing in for Pro League. I don't think they announced like signing him. So I'm wondering, maybe he's like, you know what, I'll play Pro League and see if we do anything. And maybe he just sees it as a chance to prove himself, I guess. Because yeah, you're right. Like, I can't imagine he's going to move to NA or something. I don't know. It just wouldn't really make sense for this team, I feel like.
It's a great stage to test yourself on as well, isn't it? Like Pro League. A lot of good teams, and if they do qualify, then all good. But if he has
Who
these
knows?
offers and they don't, then I mean, he gets the extra experience, doesn't he? But
Yeah.
just the way you were describing them as quite scrappy, I don't know, almost puggy. It's similar to me how I saw ENCE when they first actually started grinding up the ranks a bit. Obviously, they've changed a lot since that time. So, do you think that with this new ENCE lineup, they're gonna have quite a like an aim dually matchup?
They have, it's a quite a good lineup individually. I don't know where to put them really right now. So we'll have to see, but I don't think we should count them out. But yeah, I don't know what to say about them because I don't know where they are right now, basically.
Yeah. They're a strange team because they failed to make the play-ins at Katowice. Oh, they made the play-ins, sorry. They failed to qualify through the play-ins. And since then, they've made another change, which was Valde out, Nerds in. So do you think they have realistic expectations here of like, this isn't the event where we're going to come through and win it, but maybe we'll be ready for the major?
I think now for them, they've had like so much time off to practice. And originally, I think them bringing in Valde for Spinks was like a really weird move in a way, because I find Valde, like, in like his best form, he's a good support player and a good anchor. But then to come in and try fill the roles of Spinks, like, it's like they lost their X factor, right? And I don't think Valde could like provide that for them. But now they're bringing this Nerds kid. He's sharp as fuck. He's like young, hungry, and Snappy thinks he can be like the Spinks V2. So heading into it, like, with the practice they've had now, I'm expecting a lot better things from them, to be honest. Like, I don't see them in the middle pack. I see them coming to the higher part of the group for sure. So yeah.
I mean, it's interesting as well because last Pro League he was in that endpoint lineup that took down NAVI 2-0. So them being in the same group, maybe that's just telling that the upper bracket final could be Nertz coming back to show Navi what he's made of. So you do think that they will actually have like fairly high expectations for what they can do here, or do you think they're just gonna play
I
their
think
game and they'll ease their way through?
I think they'll come in and play their game. I think their expectation is obviously to get to playoffs for sure. My expectation of them is to get to playoffs also, because I think they have a really good squad. Like just in general, like I mean, they showed that in the past, right? Last year, where they were making top 2 placings, top 4 placings, like pretty consistently. So, yeah, for me, I just have high expectations for them in general because of what I know what they're capable of, and now they seem to like. Hopefully, this is like the piece that makes them get back to the form that they were in last year, right? So I'm hoping Nurse can play pretty damn good and they can figure something out this event for sure.
For ATK as well, if they're gonna try to rely on aim against ENCE, they're gonna lose.
They just
Like,
get absolutely hammered, right?
They're gonna
Yeah.
get smashed. Like my expectation for this match is that ATK is probably gonna get like maybe a 16-10 on one map, or it's gonna be like 16-8, 16-6. Even though ENCE is new, if you want to rely on aim against a team like that, you're gonna get smacked. And with the roles as well, in ENCE right now, it's a much better fit than with Valda. Like you have Duha, who is like I guess like pretty quiet personality in a way, but like with a solid aim, and he can like play like kind of passive, but he can kind of like I guess float in a little like in a way. Then you have Martin, who is just like hyper aggressive, just wants to fight everyone. And now having Nerds come in, he is like I wouldn't say 1-to-1 Spinks, but aim wise he is, and like he could definitely be like the new Spinks, potentially, you know, even better. There's always that potential. And then you know, you have a really solid AWP player as well. So yeah, I agree. The squad on paper looks really strong, and honestly, I could see them like going even with limited practice. I could actually see them going just winning all the games in the bracket.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah, me too.
Damn, everyone's high on ENCE, eh?
Yeah, it seems
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I'm curious about now is I think when Snappy first was leading this team, I was really impressed. And now I think this is where we're really going to get to see what he's going to be like, because I think initially ENCE were calling this like crazy style where they would literally go for like quite a lot of just plays out of spawn. They'd be like, right, boom, straight in with like a execute like on T side. And barely any other teams really played like that. It was kind of crazy. And I think that's slowly having to change. And so now we'll see if Snappy can kind of, I guess, play a slightly more standard style while also keeping his edge. I will also say, yeah, this team, like, just in terms of aimers, it is kind of nuts. Like, Dheart and Madden are both already sick. And then it's so funny to me that Endpoint just keep finding these players that they just sell for loads of money. Like they sell
farming, mate.
nuts,
They're just
Flames,
farming.
Mezzy. It's crazy, man. Yeah, actually wild. And they picked up another Israeli guy, which is so funny to me. Like, where are these Israeli players coming from? I don't get it.
Israel.
Yeah, well, adds up.
They've got like an unlimited money glitch, haven't they? Or just players.
Yeah.
It's kind of
True.
crazy. It's like we've been talking about all episode with these teams having two players that need to stand out, and some Pius and Nerds can be those two players for ENCE. So yeah, they're definitely an exciting prospect. Although I will sit here and say I have my reservations about how I think they will perform at this event with the new players. So
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, as much as I want to jump on the train with you guys,
I got
because
confidence.
I
boys.
love
got
the ENCE
confidence.
lineup. I just I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens.
It's also like I'm not 100% sure how like I think Nuts will be good in the long term, but I'm not 100% sure he'll just come in and be like sick straight away, you know?
Yeah, it could take some time for him to find his footing, definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lovely group for them to be involved in, like, because if they do lose to ATK, then they come up against Rare Atom, and if they beat ATK, then they come up against Liquid. I think it's, as much as we can sit here and say Liquid has insane players and you know they've got really good individuals, it's like, well, that matchup to me is actually quite close. Like, it is difficult to pinpoint. Although I think I do favor Liquid there. You know, anything can happen. It's
Yeah, it's CS.
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Day
so,
to day form.
Yeah. We'll end this episode just like the others, and I want to get your guys' top 4 on who you think are going to go through.
Top 4.
There's actually questions in this
ooh.
group.
Yeah, it's a bit tougher than the previous.
Fuck.
It's easy. Liquid, yeah, Liquid ENCE. Okay, never mind.
I think Liquid and
Spirit, maybe.
I'm gonna say Spirit and Navi.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
no,
I'm with you on that one.
No Astralis.
I have faith in Astralis. I think they make it over Spirit.
I hope they do
Personally.
well. Like I hope they do well, but yeah, I think Spirit are pretty damn strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Navi, Spirit, ENCE, ForZe, I think.
Okay.
Doesn't even back
Whoa,
his
whoa.
Danish
Where's
boys.
Liquid,
like,
man?
fucking
Where's
hell.
Liquid?
Yeah,
Come
but I don't know. Like Jerry and Pro League, bro. Like, yeah, there's something there. Always. I think there's maybe potential, but maybe I'm overrating my boy Jerry. You never know.
It's also with the whole format of this tournament. You can't really underestimate any team to be able to qualify because they get so many chances to actually put themselves through. It's
Yeah.
So I mean, because you get immediately the 2 qualification spots just for reaching the upper bracket final. So whoever can manage to wiggle their way through that is it's going to be interesting for sure because we know that Navi are prone to upsets and Spirit or Astralis could be a team that does that. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting group. I think it's probably going to be one of the closest groups that we've seen so far. And yeah, this has been Group D. Catch all these guys on their socials. They'll be down below. Please like, subscribe, and we'll catch you for playoffs. So yeah, we're edging the end now.
Yeah.
Getting there.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.